Welcome everyone to the Real Education Podcast. My name is Anthony. I'm going to be your host today. Today I'm so excited because I'm relaunching another part of an episode that I did almost 2 years ago about building relationships. So this is going to be a two-part series on quick steps to be able to help build relationships. As the school year has ended and we're about to start a new school year, definitely want to reinforce great strategies for building relationships with your students, among your colleagues, faculty, and staff, and then just in any general daily life, right? Our spouses, our coworkers, our family members, people that we just see each and every single day. So come with me as we explore the first part of our Build a Relationship series, looking at relevance, empathy, lifelong learning, and action. Hey everyone, so let's jump right into our first one, and it's called reality. So, it's so important when we're looking at things from a global perspective, but also from a very intimate perspective. And if you've seen any of my Facebook Reels, I often talk about that, looking not only at that specific situation where there's a plant, we also have to look at the forest, right? So you have to look at that bigger picture. And when we have a divisive world as much as we do now in today's society, everyone has basically said, pick a side and go there and don't come in the middle for any type of conversation or discussion around issues that we are divided on, right? And it's not about trying to convince someone to come to your side, but there are common factors that we all have that are inherent to any situation. So this is what helps us to not get so angry and upset when we're trying to view our point and listen to others. So, just a quick way, how can you actually create that? And that's what I like to call gathering fact from all sides. And that's really looking at that reality or the relevance. And there's quick ways to be able to do this. And that's just asking more questions, using a variety of sources, and finally going with your gut instinct. Now, again, I know if you are listening to this via just audio, you can't see the slides here, but if you are looking at it on YouTube, then definitely continue to join us. So the thing about this is, like, if you just look at some of these pictures here, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had a lot of divisive issues, from schooling to the police to riots, even our doctors, and with the COVID pandemic response, a lot of things have come into a crashing integration. And people are like, I'm for this one, I'm for that one, I'm not listening to your side or that side. But is that really smart? You got to ask yourself that. It's important for us to ask more questions. If we are not honest with ourselves and being able to be open to ask more questions on whatever topic or whatever issue, then you're going to miss the bigger point, right? So, how can you do that? Now, from an education perspective, I can go back and I'll show you there that Brandon is asleep. How many times have you seen a student sleep in your class and they're checked out? You know what? They got a 0. And so if you looked at him, I like to ask more questions. So why was Brandon sleeping in class? Why did he get a 0? Well, for some people that don't like to build relationships, they don't want to ask that question. He was sleeping, got a 0, no big deal. But again, cultivating those relationships, especially those students that have been disconnected and no one has shown an interest in building relationships, we got to dig a little deeper. So in the business world, they really do this well. They ask at least five questions, and each one of them digs a little bit deeper and goes to the root cause analysis, which is the strategy that they use. So the second question might be, well, Brandon was sleeping. Why was he asleep? Well, he was taking care of his siblings at home. If you dig a little deeper, you might find out that, he was sleeping because he actually is the caregiver in his home. And so with his mom working third shift, he has to take care of some sick siblings. And so he's just been really in a very stressful state. Now, again, this is not for all students, but when you're really looking at it, at the end of the day, if we don't ask more questions, then we won't really get to the root cause of what's happening. Again, especially students that are checked out, you're not really going to get there if you don't take the time to be able to do that. So let's take another quick stab at this, looking at using a variety of sources. Again, some people are just like, I use one source and that's all I'm going to use. But you know what? Every source that we have, independent of itself, is biased in some way. So I like to use a variety of sources. Some things that I like to look at. Look, there's one called All Sides. it shows you both the left side and the right side and what's in the middle. And it gives you a good point of who's biased and who's showing you what specific stories from a slant that they want you to look at. Another thing is like using Wikipedia. I'm going to the Internet Archive, even going to Google. The whole point of it is just using a variety of sources, right? If I just going back to Brandon's situation, if I just go back and say, you know what, Brandon, I'm not consulting with his mother. I'm not consulting with the counselor. I'm not consulting with somebody that he had last year to get more information. I'm missing out on vital details that could help me, again, better understand the full situation. So it's so important to really look at all information. And you can do that by looking at all sides. The last thing really, and I think is key in this first section here, is going with your gut instinct. Now, again, it doesn't do you justice if you're listening to the audio, but I basically have a balance out in the heart and the brain are trying to work in balance with each other. Now, how often, if you know people that are very intelligent and they try to move their position on someone based upon the facts, right? It's just facts. And then you have somebody that's really passionate and they feel what they believe, and they really try to move somebody through that inspiration. And both of those are great, but you know what? If they're not done in balance, something's going to be missing. You can't win people over if you're just all facts, and you can't win people over if you're just all feelings. You got to have a good balance. So sometimes just think in the back of your mind, that gut feeling that you have, that gut feeling that we all, I think, grow up with when something's not right, it just doesn't add up. And you're like, something's not right here. Going back to Brandon's situation. Isn't it key there? If you notice beforehand that he's been kind of sleeping in class, you got a gut feeling, let me check in on him. Hey, how you doing? Right? Maybe it's before class, after class. What's going on? See, you've been sleeping a lot in class. Is there anything I can do to help? See, that is compassion. We'll talk about that in the empathy side, but I really want you to understand that it's important to build those things. Now, here's a great example of what I call just relevance, reality, and action. Now, what I'm showing on the screen here is a picture of a woman that's in a subway that is keeled over, and she has a box of pizza that basically fell out. And I'm asking the question, what's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with a lady that's in the subway that is keeled over and the piece is basically out of the box? Well, the problem with that is that the man who took this picture just took it. No regard for checking on the lady to see if she's okay. Maybe something happened. I mean, I know if somebody sleeps, they sleep, but I mean, the pizza's gone. But what if she had a cardiac arrest or couldn't breathe or something? But people are so interested in the moment and capturing that on their phone that they're missing critical details about what they can do to help somebody, especially in a time of need. So again, you know what, you all, to build relationships, especially using reality, 3 quick tips to be able to do that is to ask more questions, to use a variety of sources, and finally, to go with your gut instinct. In the next section, we're going to talk about empathy and how to be able to build that in your everyday strategy. Everybody, welcome back to section 2. We're going to talk about empathy and how to be able to use that. And, it's really characteristic in this statement. Seek first to understand. And empathy is so critical. We grow up with it. We're born with it. Have you ever seen a child that if someone is crying, they'll go over and kind of console them? No one teaches them that. We have empathy innate within us. And if we have good experiences that cultivate that, then over time, we're going to grow up and have a lot of empathy. But there's also different situations in one's life that could block that out, that empathy response that, again, we all have. So what are 3 quick ways to be able to do that? Is to listen intently and open up, to also challenge our prejudices and discover the commonalities. Again, that we talked about that in section 1. And then finally, experiencing the life of others. So let's take a look at that. Listen, you got to listen intently. And again, as we talked about in the reality part, where we got to want to look at all sides, oftentimes, active listening is a skill. It is something we hear a lot, but we don't actually actively listen to people. What do I mean by that? being fully involved in the conversation. Sometimes what we're doing, stuff, we're so busy now, when we're talking to somebody, you know what we're doing? We're on our phones. So while we're listening to somebody, we're listening. We're not listening to them. We're half checked out because we're, checking our Facebook or TikTok or whatever they're doing, and we're not fully connected. But active listening is important because you can restate what somebody says. They can hear and actually see your body language and create a lot of connection just based off of that particular thing. So what's one thing that I want you to be able to do? I want you to be able to listen, and I want you to watch your body language. Again, if I'm sitting looking with my arms closed, like who wants to talk to me if I just look like I don't want to hear them or even be in the same location with those particular folks? I want you to make eye contact with people. If you're listening to them, I want you to, again, don't be your phone, don't use the technology, but actually be invested. Look at them in the eye because it shows that you're actually listening. The third thing I want you to do is limit those distractions. Again, there's a lot of things. I know it's almost like trying to be able to talk to somebody one-on-one when you're on a busy road or street. Well, that's not really doing it justice. When you're actually in the subway, how can you have a great conversation with somebody? You got to limit those distractions. And maybe sometimes that's only the appropriate way you can do that. But if you have a nice quiet space and you can talk to somebody, then definitely do that. The next thing is to restate key points for clarity. Again, that is an active listening skill, right? So after somebody says, and so I hear what I heard you say is, and then fill in the blank, right? Again, that helps to validate what they said and actually goes a long way to be able to build that connection with them. And then again, it'll help them to be willing to say what is on their heart. When people want you to listen, it's critical that we have those things in place in order for us to truly be able to connect with them on that level. Now, listen, this is another difficult topic on this. The next strategy I'm telling people to do is to challenge their prejudices and discover those commonalities. Now, I have a great graphic here, and it's basically one of different things that we kind of compartmentalize ourselves in, whether it is gender, race, religion, a different class of people, our zip code, our intelligence. And out of all of these things, everybody, regardless of what I just said, they want to be valued, they want to be heard, and they want to be loved. Right? Now, again, you can go off into the stratosphere and talk about the variations on that. But again, at the common point for all human beings is that everyone wants to be heard, everybody wants to be valued, and everybody wants to be loved. So if we come into a conversation with just that commonality, then we're going to be less likely to, again, want to lash out. You got to listen to me. I heard you already, but you know what? What you said didn't make sense. And again, we're going back to our prejudices because of what happened. I go back to Brandon. Oh, I've taught his brother and his cousins, and they're all like that. That's a prejudice, right? So if you, and I'm about to get Michael, Brandon's brother. Oh no. See, again, you have a prejudice for that person, and you're not opening up and being able to cultivate a good relationship with the person based upon previous experience. That is not going to help you in your determining a future for that connection that you need. So it's important to truly be able to do that. And again, that's a very complex step, but if we just start with those three things that we talked about, being heard, valued, and loved, then you're going to go a long way in order to make change happen. And the last one really is just experience the life of others. When somebody says, "Well, I wish you spend a day in the life of my shoes," and you'll see what it feels like. And oftentimes we say that, but you know what? It really does. How can we do that? There's great apps out there. One's called Meetup. And just being able to meet up with somebody in a different zip code, a different culture, and say, hey, you know what? I really want to learn about this or that. Help me to really understand what's going on. Really, there's no reason why in this day and age that we're in such digital influx not influx, but a digital wave, a tsunami of opportunity. Everyone can connect with somebody on the most basic level or a very complex level, depending on, it doesn't even matter if it's halfway across the world, there's a way to be able to connect. So I'm saying, just to spend time with people and get a better understanding of their experiences, right? There's a thing about people saying that, well, everyone has a story, and that's true. But you know what? Again, if we don't take the time to be able to listen to people's stories, then how do we know that something, information that we need can really help us to better understand that person's journey? So it's important to just do that, right? So, and then learn about the experience that they've had that has impacted them both positive and negative. You got to be able to do that. And the only way to do that is to experience the life of others. I really love this quote from Dr. Roman. I always mess up his name, Karsnick. And it says, empathy truly is the ability to step into the shoes of another person, aiming to understand their feelings and perspectives and to use that understanding to guide what? Our own actions. So when I listen to somebody, it really should be to help guide my actions. Because again, regardless if we listen to somebody or not, our actions, how we respond, is often the determining factor if somebody's going to connect with us on a relationship wise, regardless if that's just a friendship or an associate, or just trying to be able to find some type of connection that help us go to that next level. So I really love that quote, and I'll let you take it, steal it, because again, the best things in life are free, and that truly is. Let's talk about empathy, and even in a more technical term. There's a thing called mirror neurons, and this is why it's so important. When we, again, going back to guiding our own actions, it's important that we always remain calm. You ever been in an argument with somebody and you're upset and they're upset, and the conversation didn't go anywhere because everyone's energy is feeding each other. You ever wondered when somebody that's calm and collected and they're guiding their actions, the other person that may be angry comes down? And the reason why that is because they're able to feed off those mirror neurons, which is again a technical brain term for helping to be able to adopt someone else's emotions when we're going through some particular crisis or intervention of sort. So again, those are the three things that I really just wanted you to figure out with seeking first to understand, again, building that empathy. I want you to listen intently and open up. I want you to challenge your prejudices and discover those commonalities. Finally, just experiencing the life of others. In our third section, we're going to take a look at lifelong learning and how to cultivate that and build that while we build relationships. Welcome back. You all, lifelong learning to me is such a key skill to have in any situation, in any culture, in anywhere you go. Lifelong learning is critical because if we don't continue to learn throughout our lifetime, wow, we're missing so many things that are vital to our not only survival, our to be able to thrive. Key essential. So how do we do that? What are 3 steps to be able to do that? And I call it learning from life every day. That's what lifelong learning is all about. The first thing is to experience new things each month. The second thing is to reflect at the end of each day. And finally, to put what you learn to use. And let's jump right into the first one, experiencing new things each month. Listen, I love having a growth mindset. A lot of people, I've heard about this over the last few years, but a growth mindset is so key to have when you're building your own lifelong learning and connections, because you are looking at life through I'm saying an eternal optimist, but you're looking at the mistakes and failures that you have, that you know what, there's still opportunity for growth, right? So we're really looking at how to build our continuous improvement within ourselves from that growth mindset. So this is why we learn, we unlearn, and we relearn, and it's continuous. Some people are like, hey, I learned that, I'm done. And then when they hit a roadblock, they're like, well, what's going on? That's because we don't have that resilience to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. It's critical. And it's so critical. So first thing I say, experience new things each month, you all. Listen, again, the reason why we are disconnected, even though we are in a connected world, is because we don't kind of branch out a little bit and try to find different things that we can do to help build relationships and build things into our own lifelong learning commitment. And so, look, go outside. There's a next door neighbor app that, sometimes we're lived by different people for a long time. Guess what? We don't even know what they do because we just can't connect with them. You know why that is? Sometimes we're busy. We're so busy we can't talk to our neighbors. And if something happens, your neighbors need to know what's going on, who you are, and those basic things can be critical if an emergency happens and somebody needs to respond very, very quickly. Look, go to community events. I mean, the My Chamber app to me is really neat because if you're in your local area, the Chamber of Commerce with local businesses and vendors that are critical to that area's financial infrastructure, you can go on there and look at different events that are happening throughout the month. Go and just be involved. Volunteer your time. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to help experience new things each month to build those lifelong learning skills that you will be amazed at how much things are more connected and more just appropriate for building connections because you're branching out and you're not just doing the same old because that's what we've been doing all this time. The second thing is to reflect at the end of each day. This is critical, right? On the screen here, I have a character. It's called Kaizen, and in the Japanese culture, Kaizen means continuous improvement, every day, everyone, everywhere, and it always shows that nothing goes to waste. Right? Again, I go back to the growth mindset and those failures and roadblocks that we sometimes just block out and like, I'm done. You've got to be able to look at it from a continuous improvement model. And we hear the story about Michael Jordan. We hear the story about all these, famous actors and sports folks. That those are the ones that are the best. They have a great story, right, of coming back from hardships. And we all love a good underdog story. And all underdog stories have a same universal principle of continuous improvement, hard work, and being able to reflect on the mistakes that they made in order to get better. So it's important. If you reflect at the end of each day, you can tell yourself, hey, what went well, what didn't go well, and what do I need to do tomorrow to improve? You'll see a lot better connection when you do that. Another thing, again, is just to write stuff down, right? So journal. So not only just having that growth mindset, but actually journaling it down. So at the end of each day, write it down. Write what went well, write what didn't go well, and what you can do to improve. And another way to be able to do that using some of these different apps. Again, we're talking about the digital age here. There's the Calm app, there's the Breathe app, there's a Headspace app that you can listen to while you're reflecting. And it just gives you another opportunity to bring your body just in a calm state, get in a quiet place and be able to do that so that you have that opportunity. The third thing is, to put what you learn to use. How many of us, I know this is June at this recording, but how many of us have started with New Year's resolutions, goal setting, and we are not even out the gate, second day, we're done? Because we really don't use what we write down. We really don't use, again, the new things that we learn. It's critical. If you have something that you need to write it down, because if you don't write it down, then you have to actually use it. So if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, and you're going to miss out on opportunities to continue to grow. So this is, again, section 3, looking at lifelong learning. In the 4th section, we're going to look at action, and then we'll be done. We'll wrap up. Welcome, everybody, to this next section on action. It's critical that we are active every day, both mentally and physically. And when we can do that, a lot of great processes happen for us to be able to think and move into greater relationships with those around us. So what are 3 quick ways that we can do that? Well, the first thing I like to do is make sure that we move at least 30 minutes per day. We also want to make sure that we participate in critical thinking activities. And finally, taking those daily brain breaks. So I'm going to jump right into number 1 here. In 2023, it is amazing how the advancement in technology, especially in the medical field, has translated into what we would hope to believe is more longevity for people. But we're also finding, too, is that many people are sick. And some of that is a cause of the sedentary lifestyle that we have. We sit a lot, almost an average of 11 hours a day. People back in the day would walk a lot and move a lot, and we don't do that now, right? So it's almost costing us almost $24 billion in indirect spending because of our sedentary lifestyle. And what are some of the things and activities that we're doing? Well, we're all deep into Kim Kardashian shopping experience. We got Grand Theft Auto, a Fortnite, Facebook. We have TikTok. We're on our phones all the time. And so a lot of our time is getting enmeshed in the digital space, but we're not getting up and moving. Things that are critical for our brain development overall mental health, wellness, all that put together. It's so interesting that back in as far back as 2018, this is more, it's more, but just the current statistic I have, that Fortnite has made at least $4 billion just in that game. I know that gaming is like a part of almost our natural processes now. But again, we're not moving as much as we should, and it's costing us dearly. So what are we doing also that we can help improve? And that's to participate in critical thinking activities. Now, this is funny, but one thing that I have always struggled with, and this is great for me when I need to be able to think critically, is where I can find my top to my bottom of my Tupperware, right? Isn't that something? Your top to your bottom. Every time you got some spaghetti and you're thinking, you know what? I need to have the leftovers. I'm gonna put these in the refrigerator tomorrow for lunch. You can't find. You got a square top with a round bowl. Doesn't work, right? So those are some of those things. So to really make sure that you don't just go off the deep end because you can't find the right top to the bowl. Some great apps that you're able to use is Luminosity is a great one. Elevate, and even just doing a crossword puzzle, right? You can do that in the digital or the print version. Just things to be able to help get your mind exercised and being able to do that. Another thing I like to participate in is what they call the dot challenge. Now, again, if you listen, you can't really see this on the audio, but just imagine having 9 dots. And the whole point is that you have to, without lifting your pencil, connect all the 9 points with only 4 straight line segments. And the point of that is that you have to start outside the box in order to be able to do that, right? And so, again, when we look at situations and we don't really think outside the box, then we stay pigeonholed to the things that are around us, and we don't really find success because, again, we're so pigeonholed to those things that we find are barriers to going forward. The next thing is just to take daily brain breaks. Listen, you all, it's so important. I say all these important, but it's important, right? We are so stressed out in America. We're stressed out around the world. We're so busy. Our calendars fill up with so many things, right? Trying to build these connections, but yet we are often depressed, often anxious about things. And that some of that is because we don't just take a break, right? I don't mean put headphones on, but I mean literally just take a break. Take a silence break where you don't do anything for 5 minutes. No sound, no nothing. Just sit down and just be. And so it's important to take some breaks, get outside, maybe go take a walk, move, again, it's part of that movement, but do some just daily brain breaks where you just feel like you can really shut off for a minute. And a couple of things that you can do to help that. One is called energy breathing. And so if you take your hands and you shake them, you know how sometimes when you get real cold, you kind of shake your hands together, but you're going to shake your hand like you're really cold, but you're going to like go in an upward position. And when you go down, I want you to tap your fingers. And you do this along with controlled breathing. So when you're shaking your hands together, you almost breathe in, and then you tap your fingers and you breathe out. And that's just a great way to bring your body into a calm state. Another thing that people like to do is what we call the blink hand and eye movement. So if you were to take your eye, like just take your left eye, blink, but also at the same time, take your right hand and snap, and then take your opposite eye in hand and blink, and do that. And see how fast you can do that. And again, it kind of gives you a little quick minute to focus, bring your attention back to where it's supposed to go, and then go on to the next thing. Those are just some great things to be able to utilize so that you truly can find it within yourself in order to be active both mentally and physically. You all, this is the end of section 4 on action. We'll come back to wrap it up and go on our way. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on this part 2 series of Building Relationships. Today, we looked at relevance or reality, empathy, lifelong learning, and action based upon a relation acronym and being able to build relationships again in the digital age. I'm looking forward to our next part that's going to look at the timing, influence, organization, and networking that's going to get us build up in those particular areas. Don't forget to follow me on all social media. Handle is @AnthonyMChilds. again now. Also, don't forget, I just joined TikTok, so definitely jump on there and follow through. Lots of great content at your disposal. And also, I've launched a book called MVP Spaces, a guide for using 24 staples in the classroom. Those are simple techniques to achieve a positive learning environment. You can find more information on mvpspaces.com if you want to grab your book there. But we'll see you all next time. Have a blessed afternoon and keep it moving.